This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Earlier this month, I talked a little bit about my impressions on the new Starcraft Miniatures game, as well as painting up a few of the Marines. But today, I'd like to paint up something a little bit closer to my own heart, my wife. I mean, the Zerg. Kerrigan's Zerg. Part 1, Assembly. The overwhelming amount of plastic in the Starcraft core set is made up of these purple Zerg sprues. And while this is definitely an intimidating project, I feel pretty confident I can get it all assembled and at least base coated within the next few weeks, with hopefully a few finished models to show off at the end. So let's start off with the Zerglings. This box comes with 24 Zerglings, a pretty respectable amount to start off our swarm, and as you can see here, we do get a few alternate assembly options. The winged raptor version of the Zerglings, as well as the ridged swarmling versions of the Zerglings. These represent the two variant strains that my favorite creepy scientist Abathur comes up with for Kerrigan in the StarCraft II Heart of the Swarm campaign, and both of these feature these fun, transparent, glittery pink parts that I just love. This starter set comes with enough of these glittery parts to modify 6 swarmlings and 6 raptors, so I built the maximum amount of both, as well as building 12 vanilla Zerglings. One of the nice things I noticed about the Zerglings while building them is that you don't actually need to glue their feet down in order for them to stay on their bases. And I have a feeling this is going to come in super handy later on at the painting stage. We also get 3 roach models in this starter set, which again can be built in 2 different ways. The standard roach or the Corpser strain variant, which has these super cool transparent green parts, so of course I built them as Corpsers. Not just for the transparent green look, but also because with Corpsers, you can spawn these adorable little roachlings when they murder your opponents, just like in the video game. Much like with the Zerglings, I left a few of the transparent green parts off the roachlings for now to make painting easier, and we'll glue these back on once we've done all our base coats. Finally, the last Zerg model with transparent green parts in the core set is this extremely impressive Zerg Queen. She comes with these 3 really large transparent green parts which will go into her abdomen, as well as almost an entire sprue of these creep tumor tokens in transparent green, which I'm hoping work like in the game and allow us to spread creep all over the board. And while I thought I might just have to mask her green parts while painting, I actually found that by assembling her in 2 halves, I can sort of just snap her together in the middle while we're priming her, and then we can apply the green parts back into her abdomen later on. The last 2 models in this set are the extremely massive and impressive Omega Worm, which is beautiful, and I can tell this one's going to be fun to paint, as well as my wife, I mean the Queen of Blades herself, Kerrigan, with 2 optional bases. I chose to use the more Zergy of the 2 bases for Kerrigan, and I set aside the spare Rocky base for my spare Zeratul model that I never ended up painting. It's actually a pretty good size and angle for him, so that might be a good idea if you want to build both versions of Zeratul. Speaking of bases, for the Zerg basing scheme, we gotta do creep bases. I mean, what are you even doing if you're making a Zerg army but you're not doing creep bases? And while a ton of these models already have a lot of the basing done for us, for the rest of the empty spaces on the bases, I glued down some of these mini creep tumor basing elements that come on the Zergling sprues. For some of the larger open areas on the bases, like on the Roach and Queen bases, I cut out some pieces from the various different Zerg sprues that had alternate unused parts on them, as between the Roaches and the Queen, you actually get a fair amount of spare parts, which are great for conversions or basing materials. Once all of these pieces were glued down, I filled in all of the remaining empty space with sprue goo to tie everything together. But do you know what else can be great to help tie everything together? That's right, it's this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website and hosting platform that I've been using for just a little bit over a decade now for all of my website needs. And it's super easy to use. Just pick from one of their fabulously designed pre-made templates, or build your own template from scratch, and then customize things to your heart's content using their extremely intuitive drag and drop fluid engine. No coding or technical knowledge required. I've been using my current Squarespace site to host a gallery of my painted miniatures, all of my painting reference documents, as well as an online store, which has been super easy to set up, maintain, and accepts a ton of different payment options, all built in and ready for you to use. So if you need a website, why not check out squarespace.com today for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Dana Howell for 10% off your very first purchase of a website or domain. And now back to our video. If you aren't familiar with the concept of sprue goo, it's basically plastic cement plus sprues. So when your plastic cement starts to get a little bit empty, you just add shavings of your old sprues into the bottle, and it makes this kind of gross, gooey stuff, which is perfect for filling gaps on your models, but it's also perfect for making Zerg creep. And finally, with our full Zerg army assembled, it's finally time to start painting. Part 3, Zerg airbrushing. For our basic Zerg color scheme, I wanted to go with something pretty classic and recognizable, yet slightly elevated and neon to help them stand out on the battlefield. So here we are going to do one of my favorite methods for large horde armies like this one, the airbrush gradient. Starting out with a classic black spray primer and then following up by spraying everything with a thinned down mix of Army Painter Diabolic Plum to give our models a nice, rich, dark purple midtone. After this, I sprayed everything from above with Pro-Acryl Titanium White to give us some really bright highlights, and I also sprayed all of the Zerg bellies with this color as well to keep them looking nice and bright, as well as any other areas that I wanted to be lighter, such as the interior of the Omega Worm, which you will notice I didn't glue down to the base yet to make painting the interior a little bit easier. And I also painted anything white that was going to be directly beneath any of the transparent green areas to make those green areas pop a little bit. You'll also notice here, much like with the Marines, in the areas where I haven't removed the transparent plastic parts completely, I've masked them off using either masking tape or poster putty. And with our initial zenithal spray complete, it's time for the fun part, adding all of the bright colors. I started this out with a spray of Pro-Acryl Warm Yellow from above, as well as onto any areas that I want to be transparent green later to make them, again, just pop a little bit more from underneath, and followed this up with a spray of Speed Paint Familiar Pink from the sides of the models, as well as spraying upwards beneath into the recesses of things, to give them a nice fleshy look underneath, and also to create a nice gradient from dark purple to pink, all the way to orange, and then a nice pure yellow at the apex of things. Oh, and if you're wondering, at this point I also removed the poster putty from the Zerg Swarmlings, as well as gluing the wings back onto the Zergling Raptors. I did this before spraying them with transparent pink to give them a sick-looking neon pink gradient on their transparent parts. To finish things up, I then sprayed the rims of the bases with black primer to save myself some time later, but also to sort of darken and shade the purple on the bases. And with all of our base coats complete, it was finally time to return to the painting desk to add Part 4, Washes and Details. Okay, so at this point our Zerg are looking pretty good, I think, but there were still a few details I wanted to add to each one before calling them finished. To begin, of course I wanted to replace all of the transparent green plastic elements onto the relevant models, as well as gluing them permanently into place. Beyond this, everyone got some highlights, using one of my favorite warm universal highlight colors, Golden Brown. This color works great not only for highlighting the majority of the bug's skin in an edge highlighting or rough dry brushing sort of way, but also for giving stronger highlights, almost a base coat, to areas that I want to feel more like bone, such as the Zerg claws or teeth. Once this was completed, in order to give deeper shadows to certain areas and to blend in some of the chalkier looking highlights, I used a selective wash of 50% Familiar Pink and 50% speed paint medium on any parts of the model I thought could use it, including even some of the fleshier bits on the creep bases as well. And then, finally, to clean things up, I gave certain areas, mostly the bones, claws, and teeth, a second, more subtle edge highlight using Pro Acryl Ivory. And at this point, I also painted all of the eyes in ivory as well before giving them a coat of this fluorescent green color, Army Painter Data System Glow, to vaguely match the transparent green elements. On some of the basic Zerglings, I also gave them some little spots or patterns on their back using Diabolic Plum. And for the basic Zerglings, as well as all of their variants, that was about it. While for some of the other more specialized units, there were some unique challenges to tackle. The roaches, for example, I had to paint the front claws from scratch as I had opted not to paint them with an airbrush. So I started with a white brush-on primer, attempting to leave some of the transparent green underneath slightly visible. And then in sequence, on top of this, I layered on Diabolic Plum, Wicked Pink, a mix of Wicked Pink and Golden Brown, and then finally a pure highlight of Golden Brown. At the end of all of this work, while I did get the front claws to vaguely match the rest of the model, maybe that's a good tip for those of you who don't have an airbrush and want to do a similar paint scheme, the transparent green parts ended up looking barely visible, and if I was to do this all over again, I'd probably just glue them on at the beginning and paint these as part of the airbrush step. I painted the rest of the roaches and roachlings in the exact same way as the regular Zerglings, with the one difference being I added more fluorescent green highlights to areas on the back and upper claws to set these apart to match their green spikes. For Kerrigan, the Omega Worm, and the Zerg Queen, I once again used all the same techniques and colors in roughly the same sequence, but I just took a bit more time and care with each of these unique models and made sure to have fun with each one. So much more time and care, in fact, that I don't think I'd call any of these models completely done as of right now. And while I definitely have a fair amount of Zerg left to finish painting as of this video's publication, I'm pretty happy with what I've gotten done this week, and I'll continue to pick away at the details on my swarm for the next month or two until I get my hands on the next Zerg models released, and then I hope to publish another follow-up video to show you the progress that I've made. Oh, and I did add one more finishing touch to each model as well once the painting was completed, and that is this final coat of Zerg slime, which I added on top of the bases to really make these look like creep bases. What this is, it's just regular sprue goo that I made, but instead of feeding the sprue goo with regular gray plastic, I used the transparent pink plastic from the Zerg upgrade sprue. And I think this is a pretty cool hack that I'd never thought of before because I don't typically have this many transparent sprues lying around, but yeah, you can make transparent sprue goo. It looks pretty cool. So anyway, that's about it from me for today on my Zerg swarm. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more StarCraft content in the future. I'm really enjoying this game. It's got some really fun models. Check out my Patreon if you'd like to support my work, or join our Discord server. Check out the referral link to Archon Studios down in the description if you want some Zerg of your very own. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.